Welcome back, everybody, to the Smart Spaces Simplified podcast. Today, we have two people on the cast. First, I'd like to introduce everybody to my brother and business partner, Joel. And also on the cast today, we're going to have Don Kerens. He is a fellow integrator from the neighboring state of Ohio.
Yep, Akron, Ohio.
Akron, Ohio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Don. Today's going to be just a kind of a chit chat about the industry in general. So both of us, or all of us, have been doing this song and dance for 20 years or more, and just want to talk a little bit about where the industry was, way back when, before the turn of the century, and where it is today, and where we think it might be going in the future. So it's a question that I know I get, Joel gets, and I'm sure Don gets. That how do I future-proof, or where's it going? Well, let's talk about it a little bit and where we think it's going to go. So, first of all, we'll bring Don into this. Don, so how'd you get started? I think you were a Circuit City rat, and we were Best Buy rats.
SunTV.
SunTV, yeah. Yep. So, talk a little bit about or a young Don and how you got into audio video systems in general.
So in college, I started working at SunTV. It was like a kind of like a regional Circuit City or Best Buy. So started working in a home office, selling computers, things like that, and would cover over into TVs, right? So kind of got bit by the technology bug. So at that time, the router was just kind of coming out. So I started working for like electricians and other AV guys, like setting up networks. So I started buying speakers and amps and was like, holy crap, I need to find a way to pay for this. So I started working for AV companies. That started in 99, right? And so here we are today and still doing it, never left the industry.
Yeah. It sucked us in too.
Yeah.
So my background, I started working at Best Buy in college and worked in the home theater department. My first day was Black Friday, and it was an interesting introduction to retail in the early 2000s. Joel, how'd you get into this world?
Well, I started at Best Buy in college because Brian worked there. It was an easy in for me to get employment going into college after high school. He already knew everybody, and it was easy. So I worked on the sales side for quite a few years at Best Buy. Learned a lot. Learned what to do, what not to do, what to sell, and
how to sell.
Yeah. And after that, I stepped into the side of the business that is ownership and custom, and I'm here today.
Yeah. So, Don, talk a little bit about what was TV and speaker? What was home theater in 2000? Right.
So back then, right? So you were doing projectors, a lot of DLPs. The brands have really changed in the past 25 years. MTX and Harman Kardon were kind of like the entry level systems you'd put in. You could do a little media room for $1,000, minus the TV. You had composite video. 1080p HDMI was a little bit later in life, right? Some of the Pioneer Elite and stuff had HDMI, but really doing component splitters, networks, Wi-Fi was still pretty much in its infancy. You had 802.11a and B. That was it, and then G came out, but Wi-Fi wasn't as relevant as it is now. So the systems were a lot simpler back then. You had your major players like Crestron, Extron, like that kind of stuff. AMX, Control4 Savant was later, but I would say it was a lot simpler. Like you didn't have a lot of the headaches with EDID or HGCP problems. I mean, if you put an amplified component splitter in, you had TV, maybe some 60 hertz ground hums or things like that coming across, but it was a lot simpler back then, that's for sure.
The days of losing the red in the TV and just swapping an end are way behind us.
Certainly, yeah.
Joel's favorite cable is the S-Video cable.
S-Video, yes. I sold a lot of those at Best Buy with not even Blu-ray players, DVD players.
The laser disc player.
It was a high commodity accessory that needed sold.
Don't forget about the home theater in a box.
Home theater in a box. That was the go-to system of the day. You had Yamaha was the big player
Yep.
when it came to home theater in a box. They sold 10 different variations of it that all had the same stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it was up to you to sell what you could to the client.
Yeah. Didn't have much to sell.
Right.
So what is your take on the initial flat panel market? You know, you had Pioneers and you had
Hitachi.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Sharp Aquas,
Phillips.
Fujitsu.
Phillips.
I think
Ambilight.
Fujitsu was the first one that I ever installed.
How much was that?
It was
the
like
retail on that?
$12,000 for a 43-inch, and they were still 4.3. They weren't 16.9.
Yeah.
You had that magic box, which Samsung adopted, right? And which everyone loves. But yeah, I mean, you 480p was high resolution, so you were firing up a DVD, and there you go. That was high def, and 20 years ago, 480p.
What's your initial remembrances on flat panel television, Joel? Early thoughts.
When I think of flat panel TVs, I think of my Best Buy days and the Philips Hue. To me, the heaviest TV ever made.
Yes.
I avoided selling it so I didn't have to load it into their vehicle.
Into their car.
Into their car, yes, with the trunk that it didn't fit in. No, I stepped into the game when you still had tube TVs. Flat panels were out on the market. You had a lot of rear projection, as you would call it. Flat panels, the true flat panel was still coming out. But I mean, today,
You mean they don't sell TVs that build in DVD players and VHS players in them anymore?
no. I wish they would bring those back. That was it would make putting components behind the TV or in the rack a lot simpler.
It worked every time. That DVD player worked every
You
time.
had the Toshiba with the DVD in the back of the side when you wall mounted it. I remember those.
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously we've come a long way. What is your take on the industry today, Don? I mean, it's obviously, I would believe, to be a positive change. I mean, we have big TVs that are cheap. I mean, our world's difficult, but for the end user, I mean, the home entertainment product suite is better than it was, right?
So, that's a tough one. Glass half full, right? Sometimes I think it's a race to the bottom. You can get a 98-inch TV for $2,000, and kind of what I joke about is that's great. You have to watch it, and I'm kind of an audio guy. Video is secondary to me, but I guess we're spoiled because, we get great deals on products. We put decent stuff in our house. And you go to somebody else's house with a different brand, right? The department store brand. And you're like, holy crap, there is quite a bit of difference. So I think it's like a commodity now. Like, people used to get TVs fixed. There were TV repair places. Now you just throw it away and you get a new one, right? And I think that's some bit of a detriment that we don't fix anything anymore, and we just look at it as a commodity. So you're going to buy the cheapest TV around, right? And again, like I said, you have to watch it.
There's too many options.
There's just way too many options, and there's too many players. I kind of feel that the market's getting diluted. That when you look at speakers, you look at TVs. Speakers especially. 20 years ago, you had your core brands that have been around forever, right? Now there's 600 of them. You have companies that make speaker mounts and AV racks that, I said speaker mounts, but TV mounts and things like that now make speakers. And you have a lot of dealers that sell those as premium, and it's easy to sell against. I just say, we sell speakers that companies make speakers, and we sell subs from companies that make subs. Do you really want someone who's making your AV extender to also make your speakers? So I think a lot of it's just educating the client. I think that's the biggest piece, that they don't know what they don't know. And I don't necessarily know if it's better now than it was 20 years ago. I don't know. I think technology has came a long way, and there's a lot better speakers, but I don't know if it's better. I don't know. It's bigger, definitely bigger.
What do you think what's the max size television they're gonna sell? I think about this all the time because I'm trying to carry this like 86-inch TV into someone's basement. I'm like, and now you see these 98s. Like, at what point in time can you not get the TV into the house anymore?
I mean, 100 is it. And, you know, like CE Pro and a lot of YouTube videos, like in New York City, you're seeing them crane the TVs in. Like, they can't physically get the TV up. So I think we've hit that point. A lot of the LED walls and things like that that are coming out are trying to combat that, right? So you want, you know, 136-inch TV because you want the brightness. You know, you have a room that has windows and the customer just is not getting away from it, right? So it's hard to put a projector in there and get any kind of quality. So we've kind of shifted towards the LED walls, you know, the 0.9 pitch and below.
I know you've put a couple. You had a client. You put a couple of those direct view LED walls in. What was the biggest one you put in for them?
So that one was a solid 14-foot wide. So I want to say maybe 180 some inch. We had originally put in 136 inch in that room. Customer came home and was like, "It's absolutely not going to work." So that got moved to his office, and then we put one that was wall to wall. It was a 14-foot wide theater, and that's what he wanted.
Control today is different than Control. You know,
Yeah.
there was no Control. You had your AV receiver remote. You could analog program it to turn your TV on and whatnot, and then you know we went through entry.
You had the what was it? The Philips Pronto.
Pronto
I believe?
Pro.
Pronto Pro.
Pronto Pro.
I've never had to program one. I'm sure you have.
Oh, I have lots of them.
The old Sony touchscreen.
Yes, with the two-way feedback.
Yeah. And then we got to Harmony and early days of Universal.
Yeah, URC was pretty dominant. I would say, you know, 2005 to 15, you know, that was kind of the go-to, right? The Harmony was the disruptor, which aren't here anymore. Then RTI kind of had the Pro Control for that entry-level single room solution that was affordable, that programmed a lot like the Pronto Pro. That's you're dragging every icon, you're building every page. Savant spoils us with that big time.
When did you, kind of getting into call it the modern day home automation with your Control4, Savant, RTI app control, things like that? When did you get into Savant? When did you start heavy into the true home automation?
So let's say 2010, 11. Worked for a company. We did Savant. We had a programmer on staff. One of the owners wasn't too happy with his programming. They flew me out to Hyannis to quickly do a 1-week crash, then come back on a project that was insane. Just add power, video distribution, crazy. So I cut my teeth on like a very large project to start. So just it went easy after that, right? Like once you got through that project, everything was fine. Maybe one of the most advanced projects I've ever programmed was in that era, like 2012. I really haven't done anything that crazy since. Controls came a long way, but I still feel it has a long way to go.
I feel like they've taken, speaking to your point of it being simpler to program or not doing that true custom system, they've taken away a little bit of the customization of it. Speaking to Savant, I'm sure you remember, True Control, which was sunsetted many years ago.
Right.
You could do anything with a True Control interface. With their Pro 7, now Pro 8 app, just Savant Pro in general app, it has become easier to program, easier to tweak it to what the end user wants, but you've lost some of the customization that sometimes the higher end client either wants or requires for their system.
100%. It was kind of a mantra. Now you can. Now you can't. Yeah, I think it's a detriment. And I think a lot of that was driven by a lot of the big dealers that they're not looking to get into those projects, right? So they've got a $200,000-$300,000 project. They have a programmer that's a year or two into the industry now programming a project like that, and they didn't want the customer to have as many options as they could, right? Because it's easier just to say no, we don't do that, no, we don't do that, than trying to program something, that is past their level of programming, right? So for the big dealers that are doing a lot of work and a lot of different personnel, locking that down and limiting it to tell the customer, hey, this is all it does, is like a win for them. But I think it was a step back. I definitely do.
Where are we on the control pendulum? So we have no control and we have too much control, right?
Yeah.
Like where are we on this control pendulum? Are we in the middle? Like, are we? Do we have too much abilities? Do we need to simplify it a
I
little
think
bit?
we have
Like, where are we at?
we have a foot on either side. I don't think anyone has made a commitment. Either we don't control much, or you kind of get into we can control everything as long as you're willing to build it and program it, like some of the big the big three, right? So I still think it's far away, and I think the customers want more. When we're programming a job and they have all these smart devices, it's hard to explain to them. Yeah, no, I can't control this. I can't control this. I can't. Well, why did I get a control system, right? Like, there's all these things that are smart devices that I can't control. I think a lot of the control systems have kind of got out of control, and they just want to sell their SKUs.
Absolutely.
I want to sell my thermostat. I want
Right.
to sell my video distribution. I'm no longer a control system anymore. So I do question where we are with control. I don't know.
I mean, to your point, and I see this a lot, I think, the other side of that is sometimes you have to save the client from themselves in a
agree.
way. Sometimes controlling of the TVs and speakers is all that really needs to happen in the house, right? I want to integrate the refrigerator, the washer, the dryer, the door locks. Some of those are nice, but at the same time, how often are you going to log into, let's say, the Savant app to control your washer or dryer? You have to make sure the user experience is, you still maintain a good user experience, even though, they want to control 50 different things in their house. It would almost become, to your point, it would be out of control, and they would just almost not want to use it. Or that would be my fear, that they wouldn't want to use it.
I kind of see where you're going with it, right? Like, companies want to ensure that you're having a great experience. So if they're not completely in control of that piece or can assure the reliability of it, then they just nix it and say no. But I think customers are willing to pay. Customers, they that buy these exotic cars and do little show off, right? They want to show off their system. They want to have bragging rights with their neighbor. Oh, well, I can do all of this with my phone. And I feel like that's kind of coming. We're going away from that now. Now it's getting just easy, right? If anything's hard, we don't want to do it. And I feel like the manufacturers are starting to get into that. Like, with different ecospheres, whether you're looking at a Music Cast or a Denon Hios or a Sonos or Weem Vessel, whatever flavor, it's hard to explain to a customer, well, yeah, I can't control that. We're in 2025. What do you mean you can't control it? There's open API. You get a lot of those, armchair engineers that, I don't understand. Like, it's got an API. Why can't? Yeah, I don't know, man. It just is what it is. They don't want to control it. They want to sell their product.
Are we ever going to get industry standards across the board?
Never. Look at the past, right? You had Z-Wave. Is that going away? I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Zigbee was kind of locked down. In the brands that we carry, you could use a third-party bridge to integrate. Well, they shut that down because that company went out of business. I think we definitely need an industry standard like Wi-Fi or, the IEEE, those types of things. I think it's a Wild West. It's still also new.
Security's done it. I mean,
Yes.
security systems, they've all just kind of maybe subconsciously agreed that, all right, we're just going to use this form of communication that we know works. That's really not, they don't veer too far from that.
No, and I think AV should take a page out of their book. Definitely, right? I mean, security's security. You have your different flavors, whether you're a Demco Elk, 2 gig, DSC, whatever it is. They all work, right?
They're all rowing the same boat.
Yeah, and they're all reliable, and they all work. Different brands, right? It's not the song and dance that we hear now. I had X system. If you're selling X, I don't even want you in my house. Like, people are that jaded that they don't even want to hear the name of that control system anymore. Security, not like that.
Or when you look at a device, you have to decide how you're going to control it. Oh, am I going to do IP? Am I going to do RS-232? Am I going to do IR? Like, you shouldn't have a choice. It should just be everything is controlled this way, and we all agree that it is the most reliable standard form.
I mean, manufacturers can't even get the same name. I mean, if you're looking at 232 control, RS-232, every big dog, Samsung, LG, they all have a different name for it. Oh, this is X-Link, and this is, blah, blah, blah. And it's all, I think, a race to
marketing.
Yeah, I mean, Samsung, they want to control your house. LG, they want to control your house. Savant wants to control your house. None of them are willing to give up any of that leverage. They won't talk together. And I mean, they do in some fashions, but how reliable is that? I mean, sometimes I just want to go back to 2002. I'm going to IR this TV. Why? Because it works every time. Yeah, you don't get the feedback, but I'm not going to get a call on a Saturday night at 11:30. Sorry to call you. No, you're not, or you wouldn't have called. And my TV won't turn on. One of the 20 in my home. Okay, well, I'll get somebody out on Monday. Anybody available on Sunday morning? Yeah, I'll call around. I don't know, but probably not. I guess that's the push for the service plans, right? I just sometimes IR is the most reliable thing.
Yeah, I mean, coming from the programming side, right? I handle a lot of the system design, engineering, and final bring up with the client. Control, the amount of control you have of the same television. You could IR it, you could IP it, you could RS-232 it. Depending on the control system, you could use all 3 methods as a failsafe. More isn't always better. The days of the Harmony remote when it was one-way IR and you were telling the TV to turn on to component 1 and the receiver to go to component 2. I relish those days because it's not as simple as it used to be, and that's not a knock on the industry. That's just
reality.
It's reality.
They were so much simpler back then. You wrote your macros, right? So you wrote your macros. You had some triggers, and things just worked. I mean, even today, I don't even understand why they stopped making some of these pieces, and maybe they still do. It's just hard to find them. Voltage sensing for a projector. It sensed voltage. It clicked a relay. Then your cable box turned on. Your receiver turned on. Also simplistic, right? It was so simple. It's like they found a solution when there was no problem. Now it's IP control. Oh, I mean, when it works, it's great, right? And some systems you build are super reliable because the customer lets you use all the parts you want. But I kind of have this network, but I'm just looking to start small. And okay, I'm not in control of the network. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed that we're going to have problems.
You've left the sandbox.
You've left it.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of networking, and I think you do the same thing when you present to your clients. We make sure that we are abundantly clear that depending on the system, we are using our networking equipment and our networking equipment only. It's become almost a non-negotiable because for me to reliably control things, I have to know that the back end or the quarterback of that system is set up the way I want it and will work the way I expect it to work. So, you talk about control and everything's coming towards the Wi-Fi or the IP. AV companies like us, you almost need to become managed IT companies to stay ahead of the game or just maintain
Functionality. of your system.
functionality or a
Right.
good system.
No,
So
I
where,
agree
where
with that.
where are we going, Don? I mean, what do TVs look like in 20 years? What does control look like in 20 years? What does our world
I don't
look
know.
like?
You know,
in
you read so many
technology?
things. You hear so many rumblings. You know, input zero, right? Video distribution is going away. Everything's going to be right on that TV. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not buying any of it. I don't. You know, no one can get along with anyone. You know, if you're looking to do title or some kind of high res and stream it from your Samsung TV, just to pick on them, yeah, probably not going to work, right? And you know, that's everyone wants to be king. That's how I feel. You know, Savant wants to be king. LG, so everyone, they all have their own ecospheres. You know, you have HomeKit, 400 other ones, right? They want to all be in control, but none of them, I feel, are doing it well. I don't. And we have those projects that are dialed in and they just run until somebody does an update, right? Like, Roku had a major problem with those. You know, Apple TVs, we had trouble with them locking up, needing rebooted all the time. A lot of integrators did. You know, you switch over to Roku. 2 months ago, they sent a firmware update that turns off the little switch for, third-party automation. Okay, well, there's 70 service calls. Great. Yeah, everything's turning on. I just can't control my Roku. Like, there's not even the ability to, turn off updates. On a Roku, you can't even really set a static IP address. You have to rely on the network. And back to Joel's point about controlling the network. Well, the cable company brought the new cable modem router combo out. Now I can't control my, Rokus anymore. Yeah, go figure, right? Like that's why it's to make everything work harmoniously is just such a challenge that I just don't think the layman understands.
It's you have to control every facet of the house, from the wiring infrastructure to the devices that are installed to the network that goes in. And sometimes it's hard to explain that to certain clients. It's not a knock on the client, right? They like what they like, but if they want to use, I'm just going to pick a brand that's not well known in the Americas, TCL, right? You go to anywhere else, they're as big as what LG is here. Hisense is another one. Controlling a Hisense TV here is very difficult. Controlling an LG TV, very simple. So you kind of have to guide them, the client, and just be honest with them. But that's also where being an honest salesman comes in, because you have to make sure you're selling them something that is of high quality that you can control. And building that relationship with the client's important, so you can let them know that.
Is voice control going to make it?
No. There. Who's winning that battle? Is it Josh AI? Is it Alexa? Who's winning that battle?
I feel like they're all still standing.
They're
at
all
the
still
starting
fighting
line.
each other.
They're standing at the starting line.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna. So let's sit back and wait.
It is not clear who is winning the battle.
Speaking of,
Yeah.
Please try asking again.
Speaking of,
Alexa,
my
turn off.
Does
bad.
not answer your question.
Yeah,
Alexa, turn off.
yeah. There you go. Right.
yeah,
I
can't,
mean-
can't control it.
No, and it's all about setting the expectations, right? Like Joel's talking about. Customer, I want to control this with Alexa, or you know what? I don't need a control system. I'm just going to use my phone for everything. And I give this example. All right, I get it. So you've got an Apple TV, you have a receiver, you have a nice TV, a nice system, right? And I'm going to control it all with my phone on individual apps. That's great. So you're rocking out, watching YouTube. Your wife starts yelling from the kitchen. All right, well, you're on the Apple TV app. Okay, well, now you need to turn down the receiver, close that app, open that app. This could be 30 seconds later. Where did automation make our lives easier? Your wife is now in an elevated state because she's been yelling at you. You're not answering, turn the TV down, and it's 30 seconds to do it. We're not moving forward. Like, we're moving backwards. This is insanity at this point. I mean, I remember 1982, my dad telling me to go turn the TV down, get off the couch. That's kind of where we're at. So you're yelling at your kid, hey, go turn that down. Go turn the receiver down. Which box? Like, it's going backwards sometimes. I
agree.
I really get frustrated.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Joel and I are more video guys, and you're a big audio guy.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
excited. I'm excited for the future of TVs. You know, I'd like to just build a 300-inch TV on my wall out of 1x1 panels. That doesn't really cost me that much. You know, like that excites me. I'm sure someday we'll just they'll get delivered like carpets, right? We'll buy an 8x10 television. We'll just roll it out of the box.
And LG had something like that. They had an OLED that unrolled, but
they still do. It's their I think it's opaque until you turn it on, and you essentially roll it on either an easel or there's a special mount for it. You roll it out like a piece of paper, and then it just becomes a TV, right?
Right.
Is it practical? No. Do I want it in my house? Absolutely.
It's not practical today.
Look at the customers that are going to buy an item like that. They're not listening to the sound bar. Well, all the components and electronics and everything is in that sound bar. So then what do you do, right? Like, well, I want this, but you know, I want to get a receiver and speakers, and it's all doable, but at a price, you know.
Right.
And
it's the, you know, I want to put this frame TV on my wall, and I want to buy this really nice decorative frame for it, but I want to put a Sonos beam below it. And you just look at them, and then you look at the wall, and then you look at them, and you say, what's the point of the frame if you're putting an exposed soundbar below it?
Are we going to put a soundbar under the picture in the dining room too?
Right.
Right.
No, it's...
And that's where the invisible speakers and stuff come in, right? And, you know, you talk about that, you know, your public enemy number one is your interior designer, right? And if they had it their way, you wouldn't have heat, electric, or anything in your home, right? So, you know,
no plugs,
no plugs,
on the
right? So
wall.
we want a TV here, and you know, the invisible speakers. We bring that up to people. They look at us like we're crazy. They've been around forever, and you know, sometimes that fits, right? It's, you know, with the wife acceptance factor. She's not, you know, you're not hearing it, but you still want sound. You know, you don't want to listen to the tinny TV. You know, those are an option, but that's what kills me about other AV guys. They don't even bring this up. But, you know, they're a disservice to us.
It's the audio and video combination is going to be very difficult to solve in the future because the TVs are getting bigger, thinner, more dynamic in their designs, and we just can't get speakers in them. And then we want good sound, but the TVs they'll have minimal outputs. Maybe someday we cast to them. Okay, well, we cast to this film on the wall. Like, how am I getting audio? I want to use the smart apps. How am I getting the audio out of this television that I'm casting to my amplifier, to my speakers? You know, like there's gonna be a functional crossroads that we get to at some point.
I mean, Joel and I talk about that a lot. You know, we talk through solutions on the phone, and you know, there are options. I mean, AV Pro is a great one. It just costs money. So, you know, that's why sometimes I think it's a race to the bottom. You know, you get a 98-inch TV for $2,000. The infrastructure to make all that work on the back end is $5,000. So people, you know, they just have a bad feeling. Well, I just thought that, you know, for a couple grand I could get this big TV, and you know, it's the back end that cost all the money. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to your point of the TV, you bring up the infamous frame TV from Samsung and the One Connect box. You know, it happens a lot with builders we work with, and when we're meeting with clients, the one question we have, and they almost laugh at us when we ask, is, "Are you putting any frame TVs in?" And they're like, "Well, it doesn't matter." Well, it does matter, because when I put that frame TV in, I now have to put a special box behind it, and then once I put the box that comes with the frame TV in that special enclosure, well, I want to put a cable box and an Apple TV on it. Well, there's no room to put that behind the TV, so I want to put that stuff in the, you know, closet that's 200 feet away. Perfect. To your point exactly, I can achieve that, but it's going to be another $5,000.
Right.
Well, I don't want to spend $5,000. I just bought the frame TV. Why can't it just sit behind it? And then you get back to this circle of, you know, I'm trying to give you a solution for what you want. You just don't like it.
No, I mean, Apple TV, Roku needs rebooted. Now what? It's behind the TV.
Call
It takes
Don.
the TV down. Right,
Call Don.
that's what happens. Sorry to bother you at 3:30 a.m. You know, we just got home. My wife and I wanted to watch a movie, and well, I mean, I don't know. You know, failing to plan is planning to fail. You know, this is what you wanted. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was super inconvenient.
What have we done to
I gave
ours?
you a solution.
What have we done to ourselves
Right.
here?
Right. It's something where we're creating service calls for ourselves. It's crazy.
I mean, you can perfectly engineer a solution, but you almost need an unlimited budget, because to put the amount of fail safes you need to put in for the, you know, one time a year that Apple TV might lock up, or the one time a year that Roku decided to not work, you can put those fail safes in. It just costs money.
All right.
And integrators like us, you know, I mean, I do it. I'm sure you do it. I will absorb the cost of things and put them in it on my dime just to save myself from rolling a truck or sending a tech out.
Chalk it up to a cost of doing business. You know, you need this IP control piece because I know your cable box is going to lock up. And, you know, I can at least reboot it or sync it back up when they send the updates at 2 a.m. and it shuts the box off that, you know, someone left on and right. And getting the budget is the hardest thing. You know, hey, what's your budget?
Don't have
Oh,
one.
I don't have one. Oh, okay. You know, everyone has a budget, right? And so, you know, you and I are trying to give them the best solution for that money. If we know that we have X amount, okay, let's steer away from this because you don't have enough money to do it right. So let's go this route. And it's, you know, you're utilizing their dollars the best, right? Like you're giving them the best solution for their money. And, you know, I don't have a budget. You know, then
Well, they do have a budget.
sure.
When you give them the initial number and it's 50,000 more than they wanted to spend,
Right.
then all of a sudden, and again, not a knock on the clients, right? Nobody knows what this stuff costs, and that's fair.
Right, that's true.
But you know, if you were upfront with me and you told me, to your point exactly, I have $20,000 to spend. I can do a lot with $20,000. I just need to allocate those funds
Towards your priorities.
Towards your priorities. You know, I want to have, you know, frame TVs and speakers. Well, I can allocate that $20,000 towards that instead of the thermostat and the, you know, high-end audio distribution. So when we ask those questions of people, we're not trying to
Take advantage of you.
exactly. We're not trying
Figuring
to take
how to run up
advantage
a
of you.
bill, right.
I just want to deliver the system you want. And when you give me your list of wants and I give that, you know, grocery list back to you, and it's 30,000 more than what you were anticipating, it's tough. It's
Right.
very tough.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up here. Appreciate your time, Don,
Thank
and your
you for having me out. This
expertise
was
in
great.
all those years that you've contributed to our industry. Ohio appreciates you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining me, everybody. Thank you, Joel, for joining the cast today, and we'll see you next time.